Hello everyone, in this video what we're going to do is it's something that I just overlooked and I didn't mention within object-oriented programming when we dealing with inheritance. Okay, and I'm going to do it in this video. So it's the concept of constructors when dealing with inheritance. So for example, let's create a class called plant. Alright, public. Now what is something common between all plants? All plants, they have something called, okay, I don't know what it's called, but it's something like those monocot plants. If you don't know what that means, don't worry. It's something just we studied in botany. Monocot. Okay, if it is monocot, we're gonna say true. Actually, it should be lowercase true. If it's not monocot, if it's dicotyledonous, then I'm gonna say it's false. However, let's just keep it like that. Now what else do we get between plants? Plants, they come by default. I'm gonna say that they are also gymnosperms. Actually no, they are angio. I'm gonna go with, okay, nevertheless, I'm just gonna say gymnosperms by default. Okay, or maybe not by default. Let's just delete all of this. Now here's the thing, let's create a constructor. This is where things get a bit interesting, because when we do create a constructor, I'm going to create here a bool variable and I'm going to call this m. I'm going to create another bool variable. I'm going to call this g for gymnosperms. Shouldn't be right, so gymnosperm. Then I'm going to say monocot is equal to m and gymnosperm is equal to g. Okay, this is what it's going to initialize. Now then I'm just going to create a function called print out this thing, cout. Actually should have been in the function. I'm going to create it in the function void print, and it's just going to print out cout like that. It's going to say gymnosperm true false, gymnosperm. Then it's going to just say it's going to show 1 or 0 binary. If it's 1, it means that it's a gymnosperm, else it's going to display a 0, which means it's not a gymnosperm. So we have a monocot as well. I forgot the and l. Then I'm going to put monocot right there. Okay, so that's just printing the details out. Then we created the class, right? Now let's just create another class fruit, and that inherits from the plant class, right? Because fruit is also a object, not an object, it's a plant, right? Then we have public. Okay, we're gonna make public. Now the next thing in addition to this is I'm gonna create the fruit constructor as well. Okay, now the fruit constructor, before I do that, I'm gonna create an attribute called name. Okay, the name, I'm gonna set the name of the fruit, and yeah, so let's just create a name. Okay, string name name is equal to n semicolon. Now let's run this program and just for now let's see what happens. What happened? We have so many errors. Not candidate, plant, public. I know why it's giving us an error, but I'm just looking in case there are some other errors as well. like public plant, I mean plant is bool, candidate bool. Okay, clear. What it is saying is that you know, when you're dealing with inheritance, right, and your parent class and your child class both have constructors, right, then when you create inside the main function, you create an object, then of the, you create, say assuming you create an object of the child class, then what happens is first the constructor of the parent class constructor is called first. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to first call the plant, it's going to first create the object of the plant class, and then it's going to put all of those elements inside of the fruit class. Okay, so that's the sequence. Now the reason for the error is that it's saying, look, we have a constructor here of fruit and we have the constructor of plant here. It's telling us that we have to call the constructor of the plant class, but what you have done is that you have made it parameterized, and of course, you know, you are not calling the plant class's constructor, so that is basically the error. So in order to also call the plant class's constructor when we are creating the child class, the way to do this is like this. We put a colon like that, and then we have plant like that. Alright, so that's just how you do it. And of course, because it's parameterized, then you just have to pass in some of these variables. So mg is the sequence, so I'm gonna create an attribute here of bool m and of bool g, and I'm just gonna pass in mg into this constructor. So whenever I pass in the fruit constructor, when I pass in the m parameter and the g argument, or the m argument, both of these, then they're going to be passed into this plant constructor, and then you have the string name. So that's just copied over to name. So let's just test this now. Let's see if this was the only error we had. And of course it was indeed the only error we had. So let's just now run this program and let's see what happens. Before actually not run it, let's just create the driver code for it. So I'm going to create a fruit class. I'm going to call it an apple. Alright, and I'm going to use the constructor, and I'm going to call the name of the apple. I'm going to say red apple. I'm going to call it a red apple. And is it a monocotyledonous donors plant? If it's, I don't think it is, so I'm going to put a 0 for false, or let me just put a false like that. Then we have, is it a gymnosperm? No, it's a flowering plant, so it's an angiosperm. So I'm going to put a 1, or I'm going to put a true. Same thing. Now let's use the display feature. Okay, so apple dot print. Let's see what happens. You can see gymnosperm 1, meaning it's true, and monocotyledonous 0 meaning is false. So that's just something that we have, whenever you call the constructor of the child class and the parent class has a constructor, then you have to also call the parent class's constructor. And there's something called the destructor, and when we have destructors, a destructor, then the order is different. Okay, because when you have constructors, the parent class's constructor gets called first, and then the child class's constructor. When you have a destructor, then the destructor of the child class is called first, and that destroys the child class first, and then the destructor of the parent class is called, which destroys the parent class. Now I'm not going to really go into the destructor, because C++ has a default destructor in the backend to do its automatic garbage collection, so we don't really need to mess around there. Destructors are they're not really used that often either, unless you're doing some memory management tasks. So yeah, that's it.